Привет, я сегодня затрону
Hi, everyone.
законодательство, поэтому
Today,
буду
I'll be
немного
speaking
обращать
about
внимание на свои
legislation.
подсказки в телефоне, вы не обращайте на
I
это
will
внимание.
also be following
Итак, представьте себе
the
тихий
comments using
уголок
my
в глубине
phone.
мегаполиса с
Just
вечно
imagine
горящими
a
индикаторами,
cozy corner
заваленный кабелями.
somewhere in a
Это
megalopolis
квартира нашего
with
главного героя
blinking
сегодняшнего
LEDs
рассказа.
and networks of
Системного
cables.
администратора.
It's
За
our
стенкой в этой
system
же квартире
administrator's
живет его
apartment.
бабушка, и в данный момент она готовит его
Behind the wall,
самые любимые
there
пирожки.
is his
И
grandmother
бабушка,
baking his favorite
собственница
pies.
квартиры, Божий
The
одуванчик
grandmother
и
is the
участник всех
owner
пауковских
of the
битв.
apartment,
Но
and
в
she
одно
has
субботнее
participated
мгновение
to
их
all
жизнь
the conceivable
переворачивается с ног
battles.
на голову.
But
Неожиданный
all of a
обыск,
sudden, their life is
компьютеры,
turned upside
техника,
down.
цифровые воспоминания.
With
Все
an
было изъято.
unexpected search,
Вот
everything is
так неожиданно
confiscated,
для
the
нашего
computer,
героя
the
он
other
стал
equipment.
фигурантом, подозреваемым в ряде
Very
уголовных дел,
unexpectedly,
главной фигурой
our
которого
hero
был
becomes
его же
the
начальник.
suspect in a criminal
Вот
case
такой вот
where the
превью.
accused one
Сегодня
is
мы
his
поговорим,
former
не
boss.
знаю, в
This is
течение
the background.
выступления, почему не
And
провели
in my
даже техническую
presentation, I will
экспертизу,
explain
как системный
why
администратор вернул
nobody
обратно себе
has
всю технику
completed
и
technology
почему так
expertise,
важно
how
то,
the
с
admin
чем мы живем.
got
Итак,
his equipment back,
начинаем.
and why it's so important with who
Когда
we
мне
live.
было...
Let's begin.
Хотя какая разница? Меня
When
зовут
I
Меховых
was,
Елена, я являюсь студентом
never mind,
направления
меня
ИП.
зовут,
Моей первой
my
работой
name is
стала
Elena Mekhovykh. My
IT-компания, входящая в
first
топ-10 РФ.
job
Но
was at an
сегодня мы
IT
не об
company,
этом.
which is
Сегодня мы
Russia's
поговорим о
top
теме,
10,
которая
one
меня
of
волнует
top
в
10.
последнее
But it's
время,
not
вне
the topic of
учебы,
my
вне
presentation. The
работы.
topic
А
is
иначе я
something
бы ее
that
могла
interests
назвать так.
me beyond the scope
Думая от
of my
обратного и
studies or
почему
work.
необходимо
I
улучшать
would describe it like
российское
this.
законодательство.
Well, I'll think in the reverse manner and why it's so important to
Перед тем,
change
как я
Russian
начну, мне
legislation.
важно сделать
But before I
дисклеймер.
begin, it's important
Проект
to show
стремится
you
к
this
объективному
disclaimer.
анализу юридических аспектов, касающихся
Our project
киберпреступности, с акцентом на
strives to
выявление
objectively
недостатков,
analyze the
пробелов и
legal
потенциальных
aspects,
улучшений в
to
существующем
eliminate the gaps,
законодательстве.
and to
Важно
improve
подчеркнуть, что моя
the
деятельность
existing
абсолютно
legislative
нейтральна
base.
и не
My
призывает к
activity
нарушению
is
закона.
100% neutral.
Наоборот, я
I don't call
настаиваю на
for
соблюдении
law
законов
violation. On the
и
contrary, I
других нормативных
encourage you
актов в области
to
ЕГЭ.
observe the law
Научные
and
знания
comply
рекомендую
with
использовать в качестве
all the sub-laws in the
нивелирования и
cybersecurity
мотивации
area.
для продвижения темы улучшения
I also stand up for
законодательной части
promoting awareness
киберпреступлений.
and motivation
Так
in
вот,
the area of
не забываем о нашем главном герое. Его
cybersecurity
начальник
regulation. Let's
обвиняют
not
в
forget about
незаконном
our
обороте
character.
денежных средств.
His boss
Но
is
также не
accused of
забываем о том,
illegal
что сегодня мы говорим о
money transactions.
киберпреступлениях. А значит,
However,
мы
let's not
затронем
forget that we
28
are
главу
discussing
УК РФ, а именно
cybercrimes, which is about Article 28 of the Criminal Code, Article 278, Article 273, which is on creation, use, and propagation of malware, and Article 139S, computer fraud. We will also consider the procedural code. We can do without it. But first, let me scare you or set the scene. According to the data published by the Ministry of the Interior, their analytical center, the volume of not resolved crimes varies from 20 to 72%.
Мы видим, что наиболее нераскрываемые преступления приходится на статью 272.
The majority of the cases that have never been resolved are about Article 272.
43% киберпреступлений.
In the best case, only 43 cybercrimes are never resolved.
Опубликованным на портале
According to the data published
при Верховном суде, объем прекращенных дел
by the Supreme Court, the number of closed cases, of suspended cases, varies within 30% of the total cybercrimes.
Можно и продолжать.
Have I managed to scare you or
про нашего главного героя системного администратора?
make you laugh?
Это очень
Okay,
здорово.
if you still remember about our dear sysadmin, it's great. In order to answer the questions I posed in the beginning, It's necessary to read the criminal code of the Russian Federation. Let's engage in this journey where we will have point A, point B, and intermediate milestones. Point A is pre-trial, then there goes the investigation, and then the trial phase. Let's begin from our point of destination, which is A. We all know that in order to open an investigation in the case, some evidence is necessary. Once the criminal case has been opened, comes the investigator. There is another important figure, is the prosecutor, supervising the investigation. We have a number of investigative activities. We all know the rules and how to play according to these rules. Let's get back to our main character. During this search, let me remind you, all his computer equipment and media, including paper-based media and money, were confiscated. We'll only discuss two activities, which is the search and the confiscation. Well, I would hate to overwhelm you with information. There are 5 search rules. First, the shelter search may only be conducted if there is a subpoena, and the judge should be advised within 24 hours. During the search, the owner of the place should be there. Moreover, they have the right to invite a legal counselor. The search activities must be recorded, and copy of the records are to be provided to the owner. And the investigative officer must make sure that the personality is not disclosed. Next, removal of assets. Prior to this, the investigator must suggest that the owner provides everything voluntarily. Otherwise, it's taken by force. In doing so, all the records are to be kept, and the report is to be served to the owner. Well, let's assume that all the investigative activities have been completed. We have enough evidence to summarize, and the investigator passes the case over to the prosecutor while informing all the interested parties about this. And the prosecutor can either accept the indictment or return the case to the investigator if the prosecutor believes that the materials are not sufficient to indict. To come into conclusions as to what should be improved in the criminal code, I suggest that we complete the story. Well, first, the search of the apartment was done before 5 a.m., and our character decided to call his counselor. And the counselor recommended that our hero specifies that the presence of the counselor was not ensured, which serves grounds not to accept the search report. And our hero did so. Moreover, he indicated that the whole equipment did not belong to him, but to his grandmother. Well, all the documents have been served, and it's found out that there had been violations of the criminal code during the search. How about the grandmother? She is the owner of the apartment. However, she is not mentioned in the report. There is no signature of hers. which means that there are grounds to conclude that the search was not legal. Moreover, it's mentioned that all the equipment belongs to the grandmother, which means that two signatures are required, including the signature of the grandmother, which means that it's impossible to establish the ownership of the equipment without expert examination. However, the grandmother is not obliged to act as witness in court, which means that
Все изъятое попало автоматически в ряд недопустимых доказательств, и какой-либо
presumption of
для дела уже не составляло.
That the presumption works here.
Перед объявлением
Let's get back to my disclaimer.
Моя деятельность не призывает к нарушению законов.
I am not calling for law violation. I'm encouraging you to observe the legislation and only use this knowledge as motivation for further improvement of the legislation. Here we are. What are the deficiencies of the criminal code? First of all, in the preliminary investigation, the investigator must observe a lot of regulations and rules
установленных для выполнения различных задач. Эти сроки
in order to be in line with the legislation, because this may affect the results of the case. Moreover, sticking with the power of the investigator is also important, and it's stipulated in the criminal code, and the investigator must observe it. Any mistake, any error due to negligence or ignorance may affect the legitimacy of the investigative activities. The role of the prosecutor is intended to ensure legitimacy of the investigator's activities. Moreover, the materials obtained may prove to be inefficient, let alone presumption of innocence. The legislation does not proceed from striving to establish objective truth, because in some cases it may not be attained. Well, in this situation, we can only achieve procedural sufficiency. So let's proceed from the procedural code to the criminal code. Article 1 on cyber crimes is Article 79. According to this article, cybercrime is taking advantage of third-party assets or property through interfering to computer networks or computer equipment. What is meant here is targeted action on computer equipment or networks, allowing the manufacturer to illegally obtain such third parties' property or obtain the right to such property. Another article is 272. According to this article, a cybercrime is illegal asset to the computer information that's protected by the law, provided that such actions entailed illegal action. Such information is defined as information for which a special regime is established by law. Another article is 273, which defines cybercrime as creation, use and propagation of computer software or computer information designed for unauthorized action on computer information or security protection tools, which needs explanation. What may be construed as purpose, as the purpose? Article 169.6. It regulates such illegal activities intended to obtain a third party's property or obtaining rights through it. How about situations when the malefactor is doing something not in order to obtain or steal? Another article which regulates unauthorized access. It gives grounds to prosecute those who may be cracking social media accounts. However, in applying this article, we can identify some aspects that may impede prosecution. The analysis carried out in different regions helped identify different approaches. There are discrepancies in the definitions of such activities, as well as irregular application of these norms in different regions, which makes this practice illegible. Article 273. Responsibility only comes when there is creation, use, or propagation of computer software or other computer information in order to carry out illegal obtaining or action on computer information or protection tools. The term malware is not defined by Russian legislation, which may obstruct investigation of cybercrimes, contributing to a lack of clarity in investigating malware crimes. There can also be situations when such actions cannot be categorized according to Article 273 due to the lack of actions that were carried out in order to negatively affect computer information. Getting closer to my conclusion, I prepared two legends.
And the second one will be for the business sector. Story number one, a proof of the previously said. Employee Alexei from the organization aid used his own USB to work and opened a file JPEG, which was a virus which have launched ransom software. The program requested ransomware in a cryptocurrency. Functioning of the components of the system continued. The malicious software did not stop it from working. Only once upon a time it has appeared on the screen. This case is not under any articles due to the following reasons. Minus 159.6. It's not defined that criminal was acting with the purpose of illegal owning of somebody's property or getting rights for owning it. The software says that it asks payment in cryptocurrency, which is not under the qualification of monetary funds. 272. No intent of conduct illegal access to computer information because the actions of Alexei has initiated this software, and this software could randomly come to Alexei because he has used his own USB carrier in the workplace. 273. Software did not do actions as unsanctioned destruction, blocking, modification, copying of computer information, or neutralization of means of protection. Therefore, the legend doesn't work for any of these articles of Criminal Code of Russian Federation. Story number two. An employee, Yaroslav, from organization Ya, have received a mail to his corporate mail as if from the center of update with instructions on how to install this update. He launched the attached file, which has led to infiltration of his computer and proliferation of the virus in the network of the company. After they figured out that in the computers of the department there was no antiviral protection. That's why the decision was denied, because organizations have not installed a regime for protected information. Let's go to conclusions. How can you improve current legislation? Ideas come to my mind. criminal procedural corrections. First of all, you need specification and extension of definitions. You need to create more definite definitions of definitions, including the malicious code definition. The second one, you have to regulate cryptocurrency. We need to develop clear legal frameworks for regulation of operations with cryptocurrencies, including their usage in illegal purposes. For procedural amendments, first of all, it is necessary to reinforce the role of expertise. It's extremely important to improve procedures of appointment and assessment of conclusions made by experts, including operative implementation into procedural activity. The second one, transparency and the speed of investigation. We have to minimize the bureaucratic barriers, follow truth not only procedurally, but objectively as well.
Мы прошли долгий путь вместе с нашим
So we went a long path with our hero from the moment
когда его жизнь
when his life have turned from head to toes, when by some clever approaches he was able to return his old equipment back. In this presentation, we have learned not only about the cleverness of the system administrator, but also about whether the current legislation has to improve. We have discovered how it is important to know the legislation, but the most important thing is that we have discovered that it's important to think one step ahead as a criminal, but not with the purpose of creating the crime, but with the purpose of preventing it. Legislation is constantly developing, but the methods used by criminals also are developing, so we have to use all possible means of protection. This story has reminded us that each one of us can be in a situation when knowledge and speed of reaction are defining. So what can we do today so that tomorrow we will not find ourselves as one of the heroes of such stories? Time to act. It's now. And I will continue promoting this topic, and I will not give up. Thank you for your attention.
Если будут вопросы, будем обсуждать лично.
If you have any questions, we'll discuss them personally. Have a good evening.